In the heightened, unforgiving world of the bold and the beautiful, where legacy and desire are perpetually entwined, scandal rarely knocks before entering. It announces itself loudly, disruptively, and with a precision that seems almost cruel. The latest upheaval erupts not in private corridors or whispered confessions, but under the blazing lights of a major Forrester Creations event, an evening designed to celebrate creativity, continuity, and control. Instead, it becomes the stage for a revelation that fractures certainty and destabilizes everything the Forrester family believes it understands about loyalty, responsibility, and truth. Zoe Buckingham's appearance is as calculated as it is shocking. She does not arrive tentatively or with apology, but with deliberate composure, cradling a newborn whose presence instantly redefines the atmosphere of the room. Conversations falter, champagne flutes pause mid-air, and the curated elegance of the event collapses into stunned silence. Zoe's announcement cuts through the spectacle with devastating clarity. The baby in her arms, she claims, is the child of Thomas Forrester. More than that, she insists the child is the result of a secret relationship they shared in Europe, a chapter of Thomas's life he neither recalls nor recognizes. The power of the moment lies not only in the accusation itself, but in its context. Forrester Creations is not merely a fashion house. It is an institution built on image, narrative, and perceived mastery over chaos. Zoe's revelation punctures that illusion with ruthless efficiency. The baby becomes an undeniable symbol of consequence, impossible to dismiss or ignore, forcing the family to confront the possibility that their carefully managed reality has once again been undone by the past. Thomas's reaction is immediate and visceral, though restrained by shock rather than guilt. He is blindsided, not defensive. The accusation does not awaken buried memory, but instead triggers a profound disorientation. He searches his own recollections for confirmation, and finds nothing that aligns with Zoe's claim. This absence of memory becomes its own torment, leaving him suspended between denial and dread. In a family where secrets have historically surfaced with devastating accuracy, Thomas understands that ignorance does not equate to innocence in the court of public perception. Zoe's narrative is unwavering. She speaks not as someone seeking reconciliation, but as someone demanding recognition and accountability. Her insistence that Thomas take responsibility reframes the situation from rumor to obligation. The baby's presence amplifies her words, lending them emotional gravity that no argument can easily counter. Whether her claim is rooted in truth, misunderstanding, or manipulation becomes secondary in the immediate aftermath. What matters is the disruption, the sudden introduction of uncertainty into a family already strained by internal fault lines. The impact on Hope Logan is profound and deeply personal. Though her relationship with Thomas is professional rather than romantic, it is built on hard-won trust forged after years of volatility and regret. Hope has invested not only her career, but her sense of stability in the belief that Thomas has changed, that he has learned to govern his impulses and respect boundaries. Zoe's revelation threatens to unravel that belief in an instant, forcing Hope to confront the possibility that transformation is more fragile than she dared to admit. Hope's internal conflict unfolds in quiet devastation. She is not merely shocked by the accusation, she is wounded by what it implies. If Thomas is capable of concealing a relationship significant enough to result in a child, then the foundation of their collaboration feels suddenly unstable. The betrayal she senses is not necessarily romantic, but ethical. It raises questions about transparency, about whether proximity to Thomas inevitably invites chaos. For Hope, the pain lies in the erosion of confidence she had fought so hard to rebuild. Within the Forrester family, reactions diverge sharply, revealing long-standing divisions. Some instinctively close ranks, prepared to defend Thomas against what they perceive as an opportunistic ambush. Others, shaped by years of painful precedent, cannot ignore the plausibility of Zoe's claim. The family's history is littered with secrets that once seemed implausible until proven otherwise. This collective memory breeds suspicion even where loyalty persists, creating a tense equilibrium between protection and prudence. The setting of the revelation magnifies its consequences. Unfolding in public, before colleagues, investors, and media insiders, the accusation leaves no room for controlled response. The story spreads instantly, propelled by whispers, recordings, and hastily composed messages. What was meant to be a celebration becomes a spectacle, and the Forrester name, once again, is tethered to controversy. The baby's image circulates alongside speculation, transforming a personal dispute into a public reckoning. Zoe's motivations remain opaque, inviting scrutiny and debate. Some perceive her as a woman wronged, demanding accountability for a relationship she believes was genuine. Others view her timing as strategic, designed to maximize impact and leverage. The ambiguity surrounding her intentions only deepens the drama, as each interpretation carries its own implications for Thomas's culpability. In the absence of clear evidence, perception becomes currency, traded freely and irresponsibly in the court of public opinion. Thomas's internal struggle intensifies as he grapples with the possibility that his past contains gaps he cannot explain. The accusation forces him to confront the unsettling idea that parts of his life may have unfolded beyond his awareness or acknowledgement. Whether this reflects trauma, denial, or manipulation remains uncertain, but the effect is destabilizing. He is confronted not only with the prospect of fatherhood, but with the erosion of self-trust. The question is no longer simply whether Zoe speaks the truth, but whether Thomas can rely on his own understanding of himself. Hope watches this unraveling with a mixture of empathy and alarm. She recognizes the pain in Thomas's confusion, yet cannot ignore the implications for her own sense of safety and control. Her proximity to the scandal threatens to entangle her in narratives she has spent years escaping. The fear that she might once again be collateral damage in someone else's unresolved chaos looms large, challenging her resolve to maintain professional distance. The Forrester family's response evolves into a tense negotiation between crisis management and moral inquiry. Behind closed doors, strategies are debated, not only about how to contain the fallout, but how to ascertain the truth. The baby's existence demands answers that cannot be deferred indefinitely. Yet each potential path forward carries risk. Public denial could backfire if evidence emerges, while acknowledgement without certainty could legitimize a false claim. The family is trapped in a familiar paradox. Acting too quickly invites disaster, but hesitation allows the narrative to harden against them. Zoe's presence, steady and unyielding, ensures that the issue cannot be quietly dismissed. Her insistence reframes the conversation around responsibility rather than reputation. By centering the child, she invokes a moral imperative that transcends corporate maneuvering. This strategy, intentional or not, places Thomas and the Forrester family in a defensive posture that complicates any attempt at dismissal. As the shock reverberates, the emotional cost becomes increasingly apparent. Trust fractures, alliances strain, and the illusion of control slips further away. The revelation forces each character to confront their priorities and fears. For Thomas, it is the fear of becoming defined by actions he does not remember. For Hope, it is the fear of investing in stability that proves illusory. For the Forrester family, it is the fear that legacy is once again being rewritten by secrets emerging at the worst possible moment. In the aftermath of Zoe's declaration, certainty is replaced by suspense. The truth remains elusive, suspended between accusation and denial, between memory and absence. What is undeniable is the shift in balance. The arrival of a single child has reoriented relationships, exposed vulnerabilities, and reignited long-simmering anxieties. In a world where image is currency and history never stays buried, Zoe's appearance marks not an end, but the beginning of a reckoning that promises to test every bond it touches. The question that lingers is not simply whether Thomas is the child's father, but what the answer will cost. In the relentless universe of the bold and the beautiful, truth is rarely merciful, and revelation often demands sacrifice. As the Forrester family braces for what comes next, one reality is already clear: nothing revealed under those lights will ever be easily undone, and the consequences of that moment will echo far beyond the event that was meant to celebrate continuity, not fracture. In the volatile emotional landscape of the bold and the beautiful, few things are more destabilizing than a truth that arrives without warning and refuses to align with memory. For Thomas Forrester, Zoe Buckingham's explosive declaration does not simply threaten his reputation or disrupt his professional life. It strikes at the very core of his sense of self. The shock he experiences is not theatrical or performative, but deeply internal, a quiet implosion marked by disbelief and an almost clinical need for clarity. Thomas does not respond with denial rooted in fear, but with skepticism shaped by confusion. The idea that he could have fathered a child during a supposed secret relationship in Europe, a chapter he cannot consciously access, feels less like an accusation and more like an existential riddle, one that forces him to question the reliability of his own past. Thomas's insistence on a DNA test emerges as both a defensive and restorative act. It is not merely about disproving Zoe's claim, or protecting his standing within the Forrester family. It is about anchoring himself to something indisputable in a moment when perception threatens to eclipse reality. In demanding scientific confirmation, Thomas asserts a boundary between speculation and truth, hoping that empirical evidence can cut through the fog of accusation. Yet even as he makes this demand, he understands the cruel irony of the waiting period that follows. Time, in this context, becomes an adversary, stretching uncertainty into something corrosive that seeps into every relationship he holds dear. While the test is pending, Thomas finds himself trapped in a liminal space where doubt cannot be resolved and trust cannot be fully extended. His interactions are scrutinized, his silence interpreted, his composure misread as calculation. The weight of history presses down on him relentlessly. He knows too well that his past has earned him little benefit of the doubt. Every previous mistake, every moment of instability, now stands as circumstantial evidence in the court of opinion. Even those who wish to believe him hesitate, haunted by the familiarity of scandal within the Forrester legacy. Nowhere is this tension more devastating than in his already fragile dynamic with Hope Logan. Their relationship, carefully rebuilt over years of missteps and reconciliation, exists at the intersection of professional reliance and emotional vulnerability. Hope has long been aware of Thomas's complicated history, yet she has chosen, again and again, to believe in his capacity for change. That belief was not blind, it was earned through consistency, restraint, and a shared commitment to hope for the future, a project that symbolizes renewal, ethical responsibility, and forward momentum. Zoe's accusation detonates within that carefully balanced trust. For Hope, the most painful aspect is not the possibility that Thomas may be lying, but the realization that there may be entire portions of his past she never knew existed. The notion that Thomas could have lived a life, formed intimate bonds, crossed irrevocable thresholds, without her awareness leaves her disoriented. It forces her to confront a sobering truth: knowing who someone is now does not guarantee understanding who they were then. This gap in knowledge becomes a chasm filled with questions Hope never wanted to ask. As days pass without results, Hope's sense of betrayal deepens, not necessarily because she believes Zoe outright, but because uncertainty erodes the emotional safety she once felt. She begins to re-examine past moments through a harsher lens, wondering whether there were signs she missed or truths withheld. This retrospection is not accusatory at first, it is protective. Hope's instinct is to shield herself from future harm by interrogating the foundations of her trust. Yet the more she scrutinizes, the more fragile those foundations appear. Thomas, acutely aware of Hope's withdrawal, struggles to bridge the growing distance without appearing manipulative. He understands that reassurance without proof risks sounding hollow, yet silence only fuels suspicion. His frustration is compounded by helplessness. The truth he seeks cannot be expedited. Each day of waiting stretches his resolve thinner, forcing him to confront the possibility that even vindication may arrive too late to repair the damage already done. The strain inevitably spills into their professional collaboration. Hope for the future, once a sanctuary of shared vision, becomes a pressure point laden with unspoken tension. Design meetings grow terse, creative discussions feel forced, and the easy rhythm they once shared is replaced by careful formality. Hope begins to question whether the brand can survive if its leadership is shadowed by scandal and unresolved doubt. The line was built on principles of transparency and redemption. Its credibility now feels perilously intertwined with Thomas's personal crisis. Hope's internal conflict intensifies as she weighs her responsibilities as a leader against her emotional reality. She knows that allowing personal turmoil to dictate professional decisions risks undermining everything she has worked to build. Yet she cannot ignore the symbolism of the situation. If Thomas's past is indeed as opaque as Zoe suggests, then the values Hope for the future claims to champion may ring hollow. The brand's name itself becomes a haunting question: whose future is being protected, and at what cost? Meanwhile, Thomas grapples with a parallel fear, that Hope's growing detachment signals not just doubt, but an impending severance. He has long measured his progress by her trust, viewing it as both a personal and moral benchmark. To lose that trust now, in the absence of definitive proof, feels profoundly unjust. Yet he cannot escape the awareness that his history has conditioned Hope to protect herself first. This understanding does not ease his pain, it sharpens it, transforming frustration into quiet despair. Zoe's presence looms over this waiting period like a catalyst for chaos. Her confidence in her claim, whether genuine or strategic, amplifies the stakes of the DNA test. Each time she reiterates her certainty, Thomas feels the walls closing in, aware that the narrative is being shaped in his absence. Hope, too, feels the weight of Zoe's persistence, interpreting it as either conviction or calculation. The ambiguity gnaws at her, making neutrality feel like complicity, and decision-making feel impossible. Within the broader Forrester sphere, opinions fracture along familiar lines. Some urge patience, advocating for evidence before judgment. Others caution Hope against entangling her future, personal or professional, with unresolved controversy. These external pressures compound Hope's internal struggle, forcing her to confront the reality that her choices reverberate beyond her own life. The future of her brand, her credibility, and her emotional well-being appear increasingly interdependent. As the days stretch on, Hope begins to mourn a version of certainty she may never regain. Even if the DNA test absolves Thomas, the innocence of unexamined trust has already been lost. She realizes that relationships altered by doubt rarely return to their previous state. This recognition does not harden her, it saddens her. Hope's pain is not fueled by anger, but by grief for the simplicity she once believed was possible. Thomas senses this shift and confronts his own fear of abandonment. He is forced to acknowledge that redemption, no matter how sincere, does not grant immunity from consequence. His growth, though real, exists within a narrative shaped by past harm. The waiting period becomes a crucible, testing not only the truth of Zoe's claim, but the resilience of the fragile bond he shares with Hope. The impending DNA results hang over them like a verdict yet to be delivered. Both understand that the outcome, whatever it may be, will redefine their relationship and the trajectory of Hope for the future. Vindication may restore Thomas's name, but it cannot erase the questions that have already surfaced. Confirmation of Zoe's claim would force a reckoning far more devastating, demanding accountability that extends beyond apology or explanation. In this suspended moment, The Bold and the Beautiful reveals one of its most enduring truths: that uncertainty can be as destructive as betrayal, and that waiting for answers often exposes vulnerabilities long before facts arrive. Thomas and Hope stand on the edge of transformation, each confronting fears shaped by history and hope alike. Whether the future they envision together can survive this trial remains uncertain, but one reality is already clear. The waiting itself has changed them, and no result, no matter how definitive, will allow them to return unchanged to the place they once stood.